Just imagine going back in time and picture this. It's 1879. The sun is hammering the Arizona desert as a brand on cattle hide. You're covered in trail dust, your boots are cracked, and you haven't had a real conversation with another human being in 3 days. Then you hear it. Music. The faint tinkling of a piano drifting out through a pair of swinging doors. And just like that, the whole world changes.
What'll it be, stranger?
Now, I want to ask you something. When you think of an Old West saloon, what do you actually picture? Gunfights? A mustachioed bartender sliding a glass down a long wooden bar? Maybe Doc Holliday is dealing cards in the corner, while a piano player bangs out something lively. I'll be honest with you, that's exactly what I thought too. But the real story of what happened inside those saloons, it's wilder, stranger, and infinitely more fascinating than anything has Hollywood ever put on screen. Here's something that blew my mind when I found it out. The very first Old West saloons, they weren't grand buildings at all. They were tents. Literal canvas tents or lean-tos slapped together with whatever wood was lying around. The first place to ever be officially called a saloon was Brown's Hole, right where Wyoming, Colorado, and Utah met back in 1822. And it was built for one reason. Fur trappers needed somewhere to go after weeks alone in the wilderness. Think about that. You spent 6 weeks trapping beavers in the freezing Rockies. You're alone, you're cold, you haven't laughed in a month. And then, there's a tent with a fire, a man pouring whiskey, and a stranger who actually wants to hear your story. That was the saloon. Not just a bar, a lifeline. Now, as those little frontier towns started to grow, the saloon grew with them. And fast. By 1890, Denver alone had 478 saloons. Fort Worth had 60. In some boom towns, the saloon was literally the first building constructed. Before the church, before the school, before anything. Inside, you'd find a long oak or mahogany bar with a brass footrail running along the bottom. Rows of mismatched chairs, sawdust on the floor, and trust me, you did not want to know everything that sawdust was there to cover up. The nicer establishments had a piano player in the corner and oil paintings on the walls, sometimes surprisingly fancy art for such a rough place. The rougher ones? 4 walls, a dirt floor, and a plank across 2 barrels. It was the original, it's not about the decor, it's about the vibe. Okay, I need to talk about what they were actually drinking in there, because this is where it gets wild. The house whiskey? It was a combination of raw alcohol, burnt sugar, and chewing tobacco. Sometimes bartenders would fortify it with turpentine, or ammonia, or gunpowder, or cayenne pepper. And they called it things like coffin varnish, gut warmer, joy juice, bottled courage. If you wanted something a little more refined, you might order a cactus wine, tequila mixed with peyote tea, or a mule skinner, whiskey and blackberry liquor. Oh, and one more thing. If you ordered a fancy mixed drink and sipped it slowly, you'd be laughed out of the saloon, or worse. A man's reputation in the Old West was judged partly by how he drank. Straight down, no complaints. There are recorded accounts of men being forced to finish their drink at gunpoint. Let that sink in for a second. Here's an aha moment for you. A lot of saloons actually served free food. Not bar snacks. We're talking long tables covered in white linen, loaded with meatballs, hickory-cured ham, French cheeses, smoked herring, rye bread, and sausages. A genuine spread. The catch? You had to be drinking to eat. Smart business, and the gambling tables were always going. Faro was the most popular game. It was everywhere. Then poker, 3-card Monte, and dice games like Chuck-a-Luck. In places like Tombstone and Deadwood, gunfights over card games were almost as famous as the gold and silver those towns were built on. But underneath all of it, the drinking, the gambling, the danger, was something deeply human. These were lonely men, cowboys who'd been on the trail for months, miners who'd been underground since dawn, railroad workers far from home. They weren't just coming for the whiskey. They were coming because they needed to feel connected. The saloon was their community center, their news source, their job board, their concert hall, all in one. Now, I can't tell this story without talking about the danger, because it was real. Wyatt Earp kept the peace at Dodge City's saloons. Barely. Doc Holliday, one of history's most legendary gamblers, lived his entire dangerous life in rooms just like these. And Wild Bill Hickok? He was shot in the back in a Deadwood saloon in 1876, holding what became known forever as the dead man's hand. Aces and eights. Outlaws and lawmen drank at the same bars. Sometimes they were the same person. Butch Cassidy was a regular at the Occidental Saloon in Wyoming. The Birdcage Theater in Tombstone was part saloon, part gambling den, part brothel, and is now considered one of the most haunted buildings in America. The line between hero and villain was thinner than a poker card in those rooms. So here's what I keep thinking about. These people, these dusty, tough, complicated, incredible human beings, they carved a world out of nothing. And in the middle of all that hardship, all that loneliness, all that danger, they built themselves a place to gather, to laugh, to tell stories, to feel alive. The Old West Saloon wasn't just a bar. It was proof that no matter how hard the times are, people will always find each other. Now I want to ask you, could you have survived it? The gut-warmer whiskey, the sawdust floors, the card games with armed strangers? Drop your answer in the comments below. I genuinely want to know. And if you loved stepping back into history with me today, hit that like button. It means the world and helps us keep making videos like this. And subscribe to Retrospect Traveler, because we've got so many more incredible stories from the past waiting for you. I'll see you in the next one.